Ladies and gentlemen, this is TVP World. I'm your host Benjamin Lee, and welcome aboard the Eastern Express. This time around, we're diving deep into a relationship that's rather complex: India and Russia. Now, after a 5-year pause, it's longer than your last diet plan, Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi visited Russia twice in 2024, reaffirming just how much these two old pals still value their bromance. Now, since Putin rolled his tank into Ukraine, India's friendship with Russia has gotten even more side eyes from the West. New Delhi's steadfast refusal to condemn the invasion or join the sanctions club made Washington and Brussels grit their teeth. So, what does the Russian-Indian relationship look like mid-2025? Well, let's take a look at our latest report to find out more.
Since the Russian invasion of Ukraine, many have focused on the relationship between Moscow and Beijing, or Moscow and Tehran. Yet there is a third axis of Russian pursuit in the wake of its Western isolation, the one with India. Here you can see Modi's first visit to Russia since the start of the war. It is a very cordial event with hugs and smiles and handshakes.
Even though some want to isolate Russia, as we've always said, that is impossible to do. You just need to look at the map.
Putin even uses the occasion to bestow Russia's highest civilian distinction on Indian Prime Minister Modi, though for nothing outwardly specific. The devil in this case lies in the details, however, as Putin must be nothing but thankful to India. India has eagerly taken advantage of Russia's need for new customers. In 2024, trade between India and Russia had a record turnover, as the former continues to enjoy purchasing Russian oil at discounted prices. Although China stepped in to make up for the massive losses in the West, Beijing cannot do so, or will not do so on its own. The question is, however, whether this situation has brought India closer to Russia, or vice versa.
As a true friend, we were together for 45 hours and chatted on a range of issues. And I was happy that on the subject of Ukraine, we could both express our views openly and in detail.
The two countries have been working more closely when it comes to defense. They recently launched a frigate that is a blend of Russian tech and Indian manufacturing. Again, who gets the most out of this? Russia, which perhaps doesn't have all that many alternatives? Or India, which can buy cheap oil from Russia with one hand and seek lucrative trade deals with the United States with the other?
And now let's zone in on the East-plaining portion of our show. When it comes to global affairs, India enjoys presenting itself as sort of a neutral party, much like Turkey or Brazil. Yet there is more to Indian neutrality than meets the eye, as it is not a sign of ambivalence, but rather meticulous political maneuvering.
Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi has been seen embracing both Vladimir Putin and Volodymyr Zelensky. India has denounced the fighting, but has also refused to condemn Russia or vote against it in the United Nations. While India relies on Russia when it comes to, for example, defense technology, it also wants to diversify its partnerships and reach out to the West. If it takes a side on Ukraine, it will most likely lose one or the other. There is also the issue of China, which is India's rival in their immediate region. As China is becoming less encouraging for many Western and especially American businesses, India would enjoy supplanting China in this regard. It cannot do so if it gets hit by Western sanctions for openly supporting Russia, but it cannot openly stand by Kiev if it wants to continue being a part of BRICS and enjoy cheap Russian energy and military cooperation that dates back to the Cold War. Indian neutrality isn't walking a fine line. It is about tugging on all of these different threads and hoping that they don't unravel and leave Indian leadership with nothing.
And now let's take a look at the issue in greater detail. Now, while the West might fume at the prospect, trade between Moscow and New Delhi has soared from a humble $12 billion pre-war to a whopping $65 billion by 2023. How? Well, as the West slammed its doors, India welcomed Russian oil, and in return, Russia snapped up India's consumer electronics and machinery like a kid eyeing candy. Now, to grease this economic wheel, India's central bank created special Vostro accounts for Russian firms. It's like a financial workaround. Sketchy, but it works. However, while their economic ties have grown, the long-standing military-technical partnership, the bread and butter of their Cold War bromance, has seen better days. India's Russian weapons imports have dwindled from a hefty 76% in 2009 to a mere 36% today. Why? Well, partially because India is playing the field, eyeing shiny new toys from France and the United States like a defense industry tinder battle. Now, with China flexing muscles in the Himalayas and playing maritime peekaboo in the Indian Ocean, India needs cutting-edge gear pronto. But thanks to Russia's distraction in Ukraine, delivering missile aid is becoming Moscow's new trademark in business. India is still waiting impatiently for the rest of its S-400 missile systems, like their Amazon Prime package was shipped through the Bermuda Triangle. Sanctions haven't exactly made things easy either. And with tougher Western sanctions on Russian energy giants, New Delhi had to pass on purchasing LNG from sanctioned projects. Sorry, Arctic LNG 2, it's not you, it's geopolitics. And then there's the elephant, or should I say, the dragon in the room. India is getting jittery about Russia cozying up to China. With Beijing becoming Moscow's largest trading buddy and sharing military tech, India worries that it might get sidelined. Imagine being at prom with your date constantly looking at someone else. Awkward doesn't even begin to describe it. Yet, despite these hurdles, don't mistake India's diversification for outright disinterest. Russian military tech remains essential in India's defense toolkit, but it does the same with Pakistan. From tanks to jets, submarines to aircraft carriers, Russian gear still holds considerable sway, especially since it's affordable, comes with fewer strings, and importantly, includes technology transfers. Yes, India's heart may lean west, but pragmatism remains New Delhi's true compass. They understand the value of keeping channels open with Moscow, particularly as the geopolitical sands shift unpredictably. So, as India and Russia recalibrate their relationship for the modern era, the West would be wise to watch carefully and not misinterpret New Delhi's pragmatism as ideological alignment with Moscow. India is just playing the long game, proving once again that in geopolitics, friends and frenemies are often indistinguishable. And now, here to shed more light on the issue is Major General Shashi P. Asthana, Director of the United Service Institution of India. Hello, sir, and welcome to Eastern Express.
Pleasure talking to you and your viewers.
So today we're trying to explore the relation between Russia and India. Now, given Russia's military alignment with Pakistan, especially with the exercise friendship of 2024, how does this align with this historical role as India's Cold War era ally, particularly when it comes to issues like Kashmir?
See, Russia's stand on Kashmir is totally in sync with India, number one. Number two, if you see the bilateral relation between any two countries, I think the relationship between India and Russia has been most stable. As far as your engagement, their engagement with Pakistan, which you were trying to refer, it is more of a business deal which happened earlier. I don't think it had anything to do with the current context in of the recent exchanges which we had between India and Pakistan. So, as far as our relationship with Russia is concerned, it's time-tested relationship. It's a strategic partnership and a partnership in multi-dimensions to include the energy, the defense supplies, the trade, geopolitics, as well as uh, space, nuclear energy. So there are many facets of this relationship. And what we have seen is that while our relationship with all other countries, including America, has seen ups and downs, there has never been a case where India and Russia relationship saw any downturn. It has always remained reasonably stable.
Right, and well, India has become a major buyer of discounted Russian oil despite a lot of Russian Western sanctions. Now, how does this trade reshape India's geopolitical balancing act between Russia and a Western partner like the United States?
See, there is no doubt you are absolutely right. We had only 1% or 2% of Russian oil getting into India or being exported to India before the war. And after the war, as of today, or if war is still on, as of today, 40% of Indian oil exports are from Russia. And Russia has become the largest oil exporter to India. This suits the interest of both the parties. As far as Russia is concerned, certainly they need an oil market. As far as India is concerned, we need a stable price and reasonably cheap oil because we have population which is well below poverty line. Our per capita income is much lesser than the European countries and most of the Western countries. So we need, and in India, see, we import 80% of our energy from outside. India is the third largest consumer of energy, and therefore, such a huge demand of energy cannot be met by isolating Russia by any stretch of imagination, because we earlier used to buy a lot of oil from Iran, but that was also put under sanction. Now, that has been one of the reasons how we have explained to rest of the world that if you put every every oil source of India under sanctions, then what does India do? After all, we have to survive and we also have to grow. So therefore, there is a compulsion, a developmental compulsion for India, an existential compulsion in terms of energy for India to import from Russia. And the imports are quite substantial, but it's not only India. Let me put it in no uncertain terms. All other countries, including the Western countries, are also buying the energy products from Russia, whether it is nuclear fuel being bought by USA or and some other gas communities being bought by some of the European members. China buys $78 billion worth of oil from Russia, so, and Turkey buys 34 billion euros worth of oil from Russia. So, see, these commodities, oil is a very important commodity for growth engine of a country, and therefore countries do see their own requirements as well as their own interest when it comes to the oil trade. And I think that is the way perhaps the oil trade in the entire world is being managed or gets managed automatically. Back to you.
All right, how does Russia's support for Pakistan's BRICS membership impact the bloc's cohesion, given India's long-standing membership?
I don't think Russia has supported Pakistan's BRICS membership. It is Chinese who are supporting Pakistan's BRICS membership. Uh, I don't recall because I have been to Russia on some of the occasions, on some of these meetings as well. Russia did support the entry of Belarus, but not certainly not Pakistan. That is a Chinese effort, and for such inclusion in BRICS, you have unlike many international organizations. Here you have a veto power with everybody. Everybody has to agree to that decision. So obviously, India hasn't agreed to that decision so far.
Right. So, with Pakistan's deepening ties to both China and Russia as well, how does this kind of regional pentagon consist of Russia, US, China, India, Pakistan influence Moscow's ability to act as a neutral broker?
See, all these relationships are transactional. America has no love loss for Pakistan, but the only thing is they want to make sure that they remain afloat because if they have to use a land option against Iran, they need Pakistan. And if they have to depend on somebody to protect the nuclear weapon in Pakistan, then they have to bank on Pakistan military, and therefore, whatever support you saw, a little support which you saw is there. As far as Chinese are concerned, the strategic piece of land of Pakistan is very important to them in terms of getting a direct access to Gulf or keeping India contained in some manner or the other. Considering that, Pakistan becomes a strategic choice for them. So, considering that, these are the international equations which you cannot get away with. As far as India is concerned, we are managing very good relations with America. We are also managing very good relations with Europe. We are also managing very good relations with Russia. And as far as China is concerned, we have a workable relationship in a manner that the trade is still one of the highest. I think after USA, China is the second largest trading partner of India. So while we have managed our differences, but at the same time, there is some kind of workable relationship, and we all are part of SEO as well as part of BRICS as well. I think India is a matured democracy, and with the maturity of our leaders, I think we have been able to manage a fine strategic balance between all the world powers who may not be perfectly in sync with each other. We know how to manage between China and USA in this trade war. I think so far India has done reasonably well. Let's hope, because we are now trying to strike a deal with everybody individually, whether it is Europe, European Union, UK, we are looking at FTA with UK. We are looking at FTA with European Union. We are also looking at a trade deal with US. Let's see how it goes. But negotiations are on, and I think India's efforts, diplomatic efforts, have seen a fair amount of maturity. And with the third term of Prime Minister Modi, I think he is already established as a very important and one of the most popular global leaders.
Right, like I mentioned, India has been doing relatively well when it comes to juggling all these global powers. But can India sustain its traditional kind of non-aligned posture amid these competing pressures from US-led allies and Russia overtures to Pakistan?
See, the question is not that we are non-aligned. We are aligning ourselves as per our national interest. So when we talk of totally non-alliance, I think non-alliance is a thing of past. Because as of now, the amount of number of strategic partnership which is India has stuck with so many countries, including our Arab world, that doesn't show any kind of non-alignment. But the question is, ours is a interest-based engagements. I would put it this way: that India believes in interest-based engagements and which are of mutual interest to both the parties and with every party. And that's how India is looking at the prism of international relations with most of the countries as to what is there in that relationship for that country as well as for us. And if it is a win-win relationship, why not? Because that's the best way to grow. So that's how I think India has matured. And you would find that maybe that when between Joe Biden and Vladimir Putin, when they were not seeing eye to eye with each other, I think India managed good relations with both at that point of time as well. Yes, what you are saying, I do not see the kind of Russian overtures to Pakistan in the manner in which it is being perceived in the West. It is certainly not that much. Yes, Russians have to sell their equipment and they have to also sell their oil. And if Pakistan wants to buy their oil, why not? Because the amount of sanctions which Russia has been put on Russia, everybody, whoever is ready to buy whatever he wants to buy from Russia, I'm sure Russia is going to give it out, and we have to understand that compulsion of Russia, because that is a compulsion arising out of a situation when a major market has been closed for Russia. So that is the kind of maturity. Likewise, there is a maturity on the other side also. Like when we were interacting with America, when we have signed so many technological deals with Russia, with America, and so many agreements with America, Russia has been very patient, and Russia never criticized as to why you have signed such things with America. So I think over a period, although sometimes we find that the West does coax us as to why you are signing such deals with Russia, etc., etc. But on the other side, we have not found such kind of excitement on the others with Russians. So I find that the understanding, mutual understanding between India and Russia has been quite substantial. Also, many people say that now Russia and China are very close, so it should cause fair amount of concern in India. Certainly, it is a case of concern. But one thing is very certain: right from the Russian leadership to their Russian ambassadors, everybody has assured India that we will not do anything which harms the interest of India, irrespective of how close we are or how good relations of ours are with Chinese. And you would have seen whenever there has been any disagreement between China and India, Russia has chosen to keep quiet and not take sides.
All right. Thank you so much for your input and insight and help us unpack all of that. Again, thanks for being with us on Eastern Express. Appreciate it.
Welcome, welcome. Thank you very much.
Cheers. And now we're moving on to the Eastern News Flash, a series of all the other stories from the East that I don't want to miss. The final phase of the largest ever prisoner swap between Ukraine and Russia has concluded. The last stage involved exchanging 303 Ukrainian POWs for the same number of Russians.
Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky has confirmed that the prisoner exchange has been fully completed. The swap was one of the agreements reached by the Ukrainian and Russian delegations in Istanbul earlier this month. The deal involved the swap of 1,000 prisoners of war for 1,000 prisoners of war. The first phase saw both sides receiving 390 people, and in the second, 307. Moscow has also said it will send Ukraine its terms for a possible peace settlement after the exchange is done, though it has not specified what these terms will entail. Some of the Ukrainian soldiers who took part in the exchange had been held in captivity since the fall of Mariupol. US President Donald Trump has congratulated both countries on the swap and said he believes that the exchange could lead to something more.
Russia seems to be eager to continue its switch to more domestic production. Vladimir Putin recently signed a law which forces all Russian taxi fleets to use domestically manufactured vehicles.
The Kremlin is all in when it comes to the Made in Russia label. Starting on March 1st, 2026, any vehicles used for passenger transportation in Russia must either meet a strict minimum localization requirement or have been manufactured between March 1st, 2022 and March 1st, 2025. The new law will not be introduced in every part of Russia immediately. Regions such as Kaliningrad and the Siberian territories will be granted a 2-year extension, while the Far East will have all the way until 2030 to comply. There are currently only a handful of taxi vehicle models that comply with the law, such as Russia's own Lada or Chinese brands like Haval. This law is reportedly meant to boost Russia's auto industry in the wake of sanctions that have been aimed at crippling it.
Ukraine's Foreign Intelligence Service warns that China has been helping Russia's military production. The Chinese have reportedly been assisting Moscow when it comes to manufacturing equipment and microelectronics.
The head of Ukraine's foreign intelligence says that between 2024 and 2025, there have been at least 5 cases of Russia and China working together when it comes to the aviation industry. What's more, he also says that since the start of the year, 80% of critical electronics for Russian drones are made in China. Beijing reportedly delivers these microelectronics through various secretive means, such as using fake names for the equipment or utilizing secondary supply chains. China and Russia have deepened their cooperation ever since the latter invaded Ukraine in February 2022. Both countries have been working more closely in different sectors, such as the economy, trade, or military technology, according to various reports. This comes after Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky recently said that there was intelligence data supporting claims that China has been supplying artillery and powder to Russia.
And that's all on this episode of the Eastern Express. But for more news, update, and commentary, please stay tuned to TVP World.